I'm Michelle Ely from the Starlight Tribune, an Arrow TV show fan podcast, part of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other amazing geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
Welcome to an all-new Better Podcasting Live. I am Stephen Jondrew, and I am pleased to say that the live Stargate Pioneer is here.
As opposed to the asleep but animated Stargate Pioneer.
Right, that's true. Yes, if you're checking this out for the first time, we do every other week a live Q&A, live chat. Still working that name, still workshopping it. But yes, we are here to just stream live on Tuesday, March 24th to Geeks.live. We will just take your chat questions. We'll take your questions elsewhere if you've got any. And then we'll just muse for a little while otherwise. And I would think I'll go off and start here with a little bit of musing, all to do with Windows 10. I'll just mention here for a minute that a couple weeks ago, I reinstalled Windows 10, and yeah, I've had a couple of weird quirks getting everything back to normal, but luckily I've done that a few times, that I'm pretty familiar with the process that is needed for my podcast reinstall, and goes well generally. Last Sunday when I went to edit the Better Podcasting show, actually Saturday, I found myself full of stuff to reinstall that I forgot about, like a bunch of plugins and things like that. So that took a little while, which put my editing off by a day, but I got there eventually. But then for some reason, when I went to actually record Better Podcasting last week, if you look at the video side of things, you will see that there is no episode number on the bottom right corner, because for some reason I couldn't get my fonts to install right. And I discovered just the other day that apparently for some reason, when I copied them into the Windows 10 font directory, it didn't work like it's always worked. Instead, I had to go and copy them specifically into the fonts installation section under the font settings in control panel. It was bizarre. I've never had to do that before. So, anywho, long story short, Windows 10 sucks.
It doesn't suck that bad. I mean, it's not like Windows ME or anything like that, but yeah, there's some problems with it. And I've recently had issues with Windows 10, which we'll get to in a second. I just have to get to a comment in the chat there. We've got Damien, the DM, calling you out. And I know that you have something in your possession that can help you fix this right now. But Damien is saying, what, only a Gonna Geek mic flag and not a Better Podcasting mic flag for you, Steven?
Yeah, Damien, I've been rocking this mic flag for, God, a couple of years now. I haven't had a Better Podcasting one. I've only had the Gonna Geek one because it's so cool. And we're on the Gonna Geek network, so I will represent. Yes, I do have a 3D printer. Maybe one day I'll change this and see. But yeah, it's still in the box. I started to clean up the space that I needed when all of a sudden we got in lockdown. So now we're not officially in lockdown. We're headed that way, but you know what I mean? Where everybody's supposed to stay home. So I have a cabinet that needs to go, but at this point I'm thinking like I was going to sell it, but I'm not going to get too much for it. I'm probably just going to put it out there and say free. Just get rid of it and hope somebody wants it, because I need to start doing that. But yes, I've used the Gonna Geek mic flag for I would probably say 2 years.
So your brother lives close by, within 15 minutes or so, right?
No, he's about 30.
Okay, 30, 40 minutes. So he's basically under the same lockdown as you are, right?
Yep.
And he made the mic flag for you originally, right?
Right. So what you're saying is I should go and get him to do it now?
Yeah, he's got nothing better to do.
The problem is, if we're going to redesign it, and there's circuitry in there, if we're going to redesign it, it's got to be dual purposes. I'm not going to pull it off and put it on every time. So it'd have to be one side Gonna Geek, one side Better Podcasting. We'll see. We'll see what the year brings me, okay? We'll see, SP. Just hold your horses. I got a couple ideas of things that maybe I'll do. Maybe I won't even be here for real. I'll just 3D print myself. So you hold your horses.
who's to say your brother hasn't 3D printed you in the first place?
Exactly. So anyways, I wanted to mention that right now, get that out of the way with Windows 10 as well. I thought we would just do another piece of hardware talk. And I heard you were going to talk about your SSD situation.
Yeah, so I can't remember when it was. Was it last year when I did the SSD conversions? I think it was last year when I was doing SSD conversions in my laptops, in my podcasting desktop. Well, because of the lockdown, it was time to resurrect some computers around the house, some laptops, and make them affordable towards telework, basically. And even though they work just fine, booting up on an HDD on a laptop takes forever. So the wife was like, I don't want to use this anymore. We need to buy a new one. I'm like, I'm not going to buy a new one. Are you going to buy a new one? No, I'm not going to buy a new one. I guess it just won't work. I'm like, well, that's up to you. But eventually I said, well, one thing I can do for it is I can put in an SSD as a hard drive for the OS. And she said, okay, let's try that. So there's no M.2 slot in this computer. It must have predated that by a year, maybe. It's not that old of a computer, but it had no M.2 slot. So had to go for the traditional SSD. So I pulled out the old 2.5-inch hard drive and I tried to clone it using my podcast rig, which had the cloning software that I did for its upgrade a few weeks ago. And I used the USB enclosures and a USB to SATA connector to try to clone it, and using the EaseUS cloning software. So I did that once. I threw it in the laptop, and unfortunately, it just wouldn't boot. I'm like, well, maybe it's a bad clone. So I cloned it again. These clones, by the way, it was a 1 terabyte drive, which was almost full. So it takes like 3 to 3.5 hours for each one of these runs. So I did another clone, put it in there, same things. I tried like 20 different things that I found online and in YouTube, trying to just go into the command prompt and refresh the boot record and stuff like that. None of it was working. So I'm like, well, crap, I'm going to have to I'm going to have to do a fresh install, which is just going to piss me off because I have to install all the programs that go with it, which gets into what Steven's issue was. So finally, instead of using ease.us for the third time, I went back to Macrium Reflect, which I used last year, and I did the clone and I threw it into the laptop. It booted up first time around. So just FYI, when you are cloning hard drives, just in the program that you're using is not making it bootable, especially if you're going from an HDD to an SDD. You might want to try Macrium Reflect or another one and make sure it works.
All right. Suncast in our chat at geeks.live said, is there a good place to buy used/refurbished laptops? Have you seen anything? Because for me, there's a couple of random vendors in Canada that I've seen for primarily desktops. And I bought from them once, bought them through eBay because they're a little cheaper than their site directly. But I don't have much experience with laptops, but you've scoured that market.
I have, and I have bought from two separate places, and I have witnessed people that have bought from a third place. So I'll talk about the two places that I purchased from. One is woot.com. There's a bunch of refreshed computer availability there, and the availability depends from year to year. Like I was just on there the last couple of days looking for a mini PC to replace an aged desktop that's on my main entertainment center in my great room, and I couldn't find one that I liked. But I liked the prices there, but I couldn't find one that I liked in terms of the capabilities. But in the past, my last two podcasting, no, that's not true. So my last podcasting laptop that I bought was from there, and I purchased several from the family before that from there. They've all worked out just fine. Amazon.com, which owns Woot, is also a decent place to go for renewed or refurbished laptops, but you just got to be careful about the brand that you're looking at and that sort of thing. And if you see a lot of the one brand on there, whatever it is, I don't know what's on there right now, but if you see a lot of Asuses that are refurbished or a lot of Lenovo's or whatever, I would steer clear of them because obviously they have a manufacturing issue. So those are the 2 points that I would go to. The third that I've seen people go through is Newegg. And for desktops, it's been okay. But for laptops, I've seen people have to return them because they come in and they're bricked, or they get the black screen of death, or something like that. So as much as Newegg is a reputable company, and might just be the small sampling size that I'm dealing with, but Newegg, I would be wary of them. And Woot and Amazon have been good to me.
Woot woot. Sorry, I couldn't resist. I'm terrible. Okay, so here's something that I wanted to bring up here this week. Actually, I wanted to bring it up because you had mentioned it to me. I heard through the grapevine that there was a review on the Audio-Technica ATR 2100X done by the wonderful Bandrew, former guest of the show, Bandrew. And I'll just defer to you actually on this, because I heard it was done, and it's a little different than my ATR 2100X, just a little bit different.
Yeah, like yours is AT2100 that you've just printed an X on the side of. And Bandrew actually reviewed the real thing.
So tell me, what was your thoughts on his review?
I think it was truthful. I mean, Bandrew doesn't ever do anything that's not truthful. I might have a couple of issues with the way he's done reviews in the past, like he's only got a singular voice and that sort of thing. But in general, the man knows microphones. So it's always a pleasure watching and viewing one of his reviews over on the Podcastage YouTube channel. So he recently acquired an AT2100X. He played with it for a little while. He did have some issues with it. It's not the best microphone. Matter of fact, he basically said the Samsung Q2U far outperforms it, basically, in his interview or his review. And he would prefer that one. But there are bonuses with the ATR 2100X. First of all, you have the USB-C connection, which is the only microphone that's USB enabled. It's got USB-C on it that's dynamic cardioid. And it's got the flush mount switch on it versus yours. Your switch sticks out on your ATR 2100. I also have an ATR 2100. I just don't have it in front of me like Steven has his right behind him. And then the light is there. But, you know, he had some issues with the gain. He had some issues with the headphone amplifier on the ATR 2100X. So, yeah, if you're starting out and for a traveling podcaster, he said that it's a decent buy, basically. But he reviews microphones for just beyond podcasting. He does singing, he does guitar playing, and he does the gambit with it. So if you're doing something like that, you might not want just the ATR 2100X. If you're traveling, you can choose that one. I have found decent luck with the Samsung Q2U personally. So, and we just gave one away a couple months ago. So I would tend to go with that one instead.
There wasn't much that he seemed to find that would indicate why you would spend the money on the ATR 2100X over the Q2U, which is generally found quite a bit on sale. So it's quite a price difference when you look at sort of regular price of the X versus the Q2U. So to me, that was pretty telling in itself, because someone who's looking for a microphone in that price point is probably not going to care that much between the difference between the two. So why wouldn't you go with the cheaper?
Well, it's not only cheaper, it sounds better. To a trained ear.
To somebody's ear, yes. So I think...
Okay, well, that's fair.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. What other reviews show. I haven't heard enough variety yet to personally make that statement that it's better sounding. The Q2U is sounding better. I would have to hear more reviews.
And I would be cautious about where you do get your reviews, because Bandrew buys his own stuff, and he's been very forthright about it. There is some stuff that he gets from the companies, and he does disclose that, but he also says he prefers to buy it because he can be a little bit more open with it. But if you're talking, if you're watching a review or listening to a review from another podcasting channel, you just be careful about understanding if they are given the product and if they are producing it for affiliate links.
Yes.
And Bandrew has affiliate links, but that's not why he does it. He literally does it to try to find the right microphone, and I can trust him for the most part, and I usually go to him for any review. I mean, you and I have reviewed a lot of microphones as well, but we just don't do them on a weekly basis like Bandrew does.
No.
So usually he gets to the review first, and
Yeah.
I watch his review.
All right, let's talk briefly here about a certain explosion that we've seen in recently, and it's the quarantine casts. This seems to be everywhere right now. It seems like everybody's starting a podcast right now because they're at home. And I had two thoughts on this. Number one, it's interesting to hear some new some new voices coming into the podcast space and some new content coming in. But the second thing that I think that is interesting to think about with this is that next year, when certain people in the industry run the report about how many podcasts are within Apple, we're going to see even more irrelevance to the random number that is put out there because of the fact that all of these quarantine casts will be dead by then, or you know, a good majority of them.
I mean, if you are doing if you're in medical school or doing some medical research and you wanted to get some information about what happened, of course, you'd want to go to peer-reviewed journals to start out with. But sometimes, especially with machine learning and artificial intelligence, it does play to go back and review the coverage of the time. And there might be some news tidbits that find their way into podcasts that you're just not able to ping from searches other places. So I could see that being relevant in the future. I really can, from a lot of different historical research.
I'm just talking about, though, in general, what people are calling quarantine cast. Basically a podcast that is started because they're in their house. It doesn't have to be COVID related. There's a lot of people who are just starting general podcasts right now. And seriously, if right now the moment that they have decided to start podcasting is because they're stuck at home, we've talked about time commitments 1,000 times. The majority of these people are going to fade as soon as they're back to their day-to-day lives. So I think we're about to see a whole bunch more podcasts in these directories that are dead. So, but you know what? Like, I'm not going to poo-poo all over it. I'm really not, because however people need to entertain themselves right now, go ahead. That's fine. I just think that this is going to lead to that total podcasts out there number being even more irrelevant.
Yeah, we've talked on the main podcast about how that number is irrelevant, really, how many podcasts are out there, because it's at the point where it doesn't matter. There's just a lot of podcasts out there. And then you have to make sure, if you are trying to podcast and grow your podcast, you have to compete with everything out there. So that means you got to make the best show that you can. You have to sound reasonable. I'm guessing a lot of these quarantine casts will be made with subpar audio. I'm just guessing.
Okay. Can I go on another tangent right now then, since you're talking about subpar things? Can I?
Oh, yeah.
Can I?
Take that on ramp to I'm going to throw a rant avenue.
Okay. Can we talk about how apparently audio and video doesn't matter right now? Because you're right. They're probably being made with subpar audio and video. And honestly, why should they care right now when you look at some of these big productions that are being made at home? Take a look at The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, The Tonight Show, any of these other random talk shows that are doing at-home content right now. Look at radio broadcasts that are doing things at home. It's crap. It's like, generally speaking, it is crap. I think they're trying, but it's crap compared to what we as people who are hobbyists in live streaming and podcast making and, you know, the audio mediums and video mediums, we have done better. Many of us have done better compared to the stuff that's out there. And it's like all of a sudden they're taken out of their comfort zone and their formula, and they can't embrace at home production. And it's insane to me. It's insane to me what we're seeing. Like, I have to say, The Daily Show is probably one of the better examples that I've seen right now, but it's still like, come on, your budget, you could do so much better right now. You could have those awkward moments where you tell a joke and nobody's there to laugh or whatever. You could even throw in a laugh track if you wanted to make it sound like your usual show. But it's not. It's him on his couch, and they've broken the format. And I just don't like. It's not like they're doing it because they're taking this opportunity to try something new. They're just working with what they've got. And so I am blown away at the subpar quality with these at-home productions compared to some of the things that we have seen through the podcast industry. So anyways, and I guess it's a sore spot for me because I think that generally speaking, like I have a okay little studio here. It's time for a refresh. Maybe, there's a little bit of wear on my backdrop and maybe I need to straighten out my microphones or something. But I just feel like it's a sore spot. Sorry.
Straighten out my microphones. Okay there, Mr. OCD. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on the Rant Avenue on-ramp. I'm going to speed up. I'm going to get on there. I'm going to be right with you. I'm not going to disagree with you. But then we're going to come up on this 80-year-old lady that's driving in the middle. It's a 2-lane road, driving in the middle of both lanes and is going 40 miles an hour on this avenue that's meant to go 50 to 70 miles an hour, whatever.
She's not right now, though. She's not on the road.
She's going to the grocery. No, she's going to the grocery store for the senior hour that they have at the beginning of the day. So anyway, she's right there and she's slowing us down. And what she's saying to us is that this is temporary. This is not meant to last for a while. There's no need for these people to ramp up their gear to go semi-professional like we kind of are with our gear, and that it'll all be over soon and they'll be back in their studios. So there's no need to do high quality stuff from home. This is kind of a wartime environment where they're making do with what they got. That's what the 80-year-old lady that's going 40 miles an hour right in front of us that neither of us can pass.
Fair enough. I feel like they could do better. I really do. And especially the audio stations out there. Like there's some pretty crummy sounding radio stations right now, but I don't know. Whatever. I guess I'll let it go. But I feel like many of these could have a similar level of production that they usually do. And also, okay, I'm going back away from audio because like there's some of this is going on to television. It's like, really?
Like some of it, it's all going on. Everybody, all the national media are doing this. They're, especially when they have ensemble cast, they're casting from home or broadcasting from home. What bugs me is the guys, and there's several guys and gals out there that are at their desks, and this is visual. It's not anything to do with their audio, but there's audio issues I have with them too. So they're at their desk and they've got the camera coming in from the side. I don't have any clue if it's a webcam, if it's a GoPro, if it's a mirrorless. I don't know what they're using, but it's, off to the side. They look reasonably good. And then what happens is they're at their desk and they've got their computer in front of them and they start banging away at the desk, being animated, and then all of a sudden the desk is wobbling, and what is causing the monitor, which are paper thin now, and these monitors are waving back and forth, and my eye is distracted totally away from the dude or gal that's talking and towards the monitor. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Or worse yet, they're doing it on a laptop, and the laptop camera is wiggling back and forth like Zarian does when he does his little broadcast from home over on the Guides from Queens network. And you're like, dude, no, just stop it. Just put the laptop down. Don't touch it. Don't touch the surface it's on, and just let it be, because this is ridiculous. That is my issue, especially on a visual medium, is that they are detracting from what they're trying to say, what they're trying to communicate, because something is amiss in their background. I mean, I just watched a guy, he's a medical correspondent, and he was broadcasting from what looked like his hallway, and he had a coat rack right behind him with like a bike helmet and with different sports stuff on it. I'm like, okay, Not the backdrop that I would choose, but if that's what you got to work with, okay. Now I know you bike back and forth to work. I mean, he lives in New York, so you got to figure some people commute in different ways. But so my eye was drawn to that rather than the important information that he was trying to portray about the current pandemic.
Yeah. All I know is that I could probably make it look visually better with the green screen, but we'll just leave that at that, I guess.
I have not been asked by anybody to go on any of these shows. Have
No.
you?
No. But you know what? In the chat at Geeks.live, we do have Damien. Actually, we've got Newsreel saying that I'm going to launch an at-home talk show called SJ Tonight. And Damien says it's going to be called Raw Tonight with SJ. So we'll see. Obviously, there's going to be a show coming out soon that I'm going to do. Probably not true, but maybe.
Maybe you can get the Rebel to do it with you.
Okay, so we had a question here from Damien, actually, and he said, let's say you've got an upcoming windfall of, I think they're looking at $1,200 right now. What podcasting gear would you spend it on?
Now, are we just blanketing $1,200 for any podcast, or are we specifically looking at Damien and his needs? Because I kind of know what his needs are.
I don't know. That's his question. He didn't specify. So let's answer how we want, and maybe he'll correct us.
All right. So it's got a windfall coming, no matter what it is, if it's tax, if it's bonus for working through this, or if it's part of the, I don't know what it is now, $6 trillion relief package that the U.S. federal government is going to institute. So he's just saying you got $1,200 coming. What are you going to do? Well, Damien, for you, I know that you've been eyeing that Zoom L12 for quite some time. I think the Zoom L12 would actually work well in your system. And that's, I believe, $599. The last I checked, it might be a little less than that now. I think that would work well for you. And I would look at microphone upgrades, whether you want to go with Sennheiser MD46s or not, and maybe make sure everybody has headphones. Those are like the basics that I would go ahead and do. Now, on the other hand, and maybe Steven can talk more about this, he does do a video production. He streams the video, and he is doing an actual playthrough, and he puts music in and stuff like that. So maybe throw some at, Pond 5 or Audio Jungle. And then what sort of streaming software would you recommend to him, whether it's Stream Deck, which is hardware software, or whatever?
Okay, here's what I'd do. If I was it's $1,200. It's the perfect price point right now because I'm generally happy with everything else I've got on audio. Is there a couple things I would change? Yes, I need new in-ear monitors probably. Maybe get another DBX 286 so that if I do have a second microphone I want to try, I could do that. But I don't need that. Overall, I'm pretty happy with all of the audio stuff that I've got. If it was $1,200, I would buy vMix Pro. Because of the fact that vMix Pro, like, I'm a big advocate of XSplit. I think it's great. I think it's very functional for the price. I like it slightly better than OBS. OBS, though, is great for the price, which is free. If you're not going to spend money, OBS will do tons for you. Some people argue OBS is better than XSplit, but I would do vMix because vMix was actually the software that I originally wanted to use, but I couldn't afford it. It was expensive. It's $1,200 for the Pro. I could, with my function, get away with probably vMix HD at $350 or vMix 4K at $700 bucks, but I would probably do the Pro just because of the fact that actually I don't know. I might only go 4K versus Pro. The big thing between the two is that with vMix Pro, you can use their call-in service to have up to 8 people calling in. And if you're not familiar with vMix, the way it works is they have a software that you give people a website address. If you want to connect, they connect and they're right there. Their video is passed directly into vMix. Nothing else is needed. You're not getting multi-channel audio. Maybe you could with a little creativity, but you're generally not. So with the 4K version, you get a maximum of 4 callers, but I think I'd want that pad just because you never know where you're going to use it to go up to the 8. So that's where I would personally, for me, put the money. And I am answering me personally because in the time that you answered, he answered in the chat saying that he was asking our personal personal recommendation or what our personal thoughts were. And again, that's just because like I've been building for a while, and obviously I will need a computer upgrade, but right now what I've got working now works. And if I was to go to vMix, things might get a little bit easier with hardware as well, just because of I think it's a little better on resources as well. So that's where I would personally spend the money, but I'm not going to be getting $1,200.
So since we're talking about a personal upgrade,
Oh, and I should specify, by the way, vMix is video switching software. Sorry, I should specify that because not everybody knows what vMix or XSplit or OBS is.
Yeah, a lot of our callers or our listeners and viewers are not video streamers. I just knew that Damien was, so it was an easy trip to go down. So for me personally, what I would do with $1,200, and this is probably over budget, but I talked before earlier on in this year, what I would do is get an Electro Voice RE20. That would be number one. Number two, and it's number two for a reason, because I'm kind of waiting for the Gear Renew to come out this year to see if there's anything new, is I would probably go ahead and get a Rodecaster Pro. I'm actually anti, if you know anything about me, and if you listen to the show, I'm kind of anti Rodecaster Pro. But the reason why I would go Rodecaster Pro is most of the time what I'm doing is I'm recording 3 tracks. I'm recording a track for myself, I'm recording a track for my soundboard, and then I'm recording an incoming track. And then if I have somebody else in the studio, which I've done a couple of times, I can record a 4th track. So most of the time I'm recording 3 or 4 tracks, and the Rodecaster Pro can actually do that. It's also a lower profile than what I have in front of me. I have a 4U audio rack, and on top of that, I have a 16 channel mixer. And I am going to miss some of those channels if I do that, but I'm looking at to go in a lower profile, whether that's the Rodecaster Pro or the Zoom L12. And the reason why I would go Rodecaster Pro is because they have the preamps on board, and that would mean I could remove the rack from in front of me, and I could put a 3rd monitor on my desk. And the ultimate goal there is to go with 3 4K monitors on my desk, slightly bigger, but 3 4K monitors on my desk. Right now, I don't have that. I have 2 monitors on my desk, and I have a 3rd monitor on a shelf way over on the other side of the mixer and the 4U. And so that is kind of the ultimate thing. And then I would go for the PC refresh. I was just looking at a new GPU. I don't think I need one right now, but eventually I'm going to need a new PC. And I think that's going to be next year or the year after, Bill.
I hate to burst your bubble, but the Rodecaster Pro isn't going to do that many mix minuses.
I don't need a mix minus.
But you said you wanted the inputs of different people and stuff. Didn't you say that?
I want myself,
yeah,
and I want another person in the room.
Okay.
I want my soundboard.
Okay.
And I want all the incoming.
Okay. Gotcha.
That the Rodecaster Pro can do.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. That's fine then. I thought you were wanting more than one person. So
I do, but it really depends on if, with the mix minus, it depends on my internet speed, which I'm maxed out right now and I can't use it. Yeah. So, and
you're maxed out for video. Let's be honest. You're not maxed out for audio if you were doing just a pure podcast.
And okay. That's fair. But that's also why I want to wait for new gear to come out, is because I want to kind of have something that combines the Zoom L12 and the Rodecaster Pro. And right now I just don't see anything on the market for that. So in a couple of months, maybe the Christmas buying season, the holiday buying season later on this year, maybe we'll see something else. And that's why I would want to wait.
Yeah.
But if I had the money right now, that's what I would tend to do.
I'm curious your comment on the preamps over the L12.
Well, it's not it's the processing. Excuse me.
Okay.
It's the processing, the de-esser, the noise gate and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
The Zoom L12 does not have that.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. I won't go any further into it. I was just curious about that.
Well, Johnny made a point here. Wouldn't pay $1,200 to pay for that hard drive recovery. I can't say any. I was going to say it's still ongoing, the whole process right now. It's not completed, and I can't say anything right now. it's going to end one way or the other. I thought it had already ended actually, but it's going to end one way or the other, and I will let everybody know what happens when that happens. But it's still ongoing, and right now, no, there's been no data that's been recovered from my hard drive.
All right, we got another interesting question. This one was in Discord. This one I think we're going to have to think about for a second. What is the quote ultimate end quote podcasting sandwich? All right, so the ultimate podcasting sandwich. It can't have anything crunchy. So we cannot have lettuce on it. So that removes a bunch of things.
It could be soggy lettuce.
I think you're still going to have trouble. I think you're going to still get the tearing noise. So
if you boil spinach,
maybe, but in the sense of a sandwich that uses lettuce, let's be realistic here. So you're losing a ton of that. Bacon, you're going to have to go with something super soft. Again, I think realistically, you're not going to get that on a sandwich. So I think you're probably looking at a jelly sandwich, because the peanut butter is going to make your mouth all gummy.
Oh, well, maybe. Talking about gummy mouth. So I was going to say, this is the time of the year on Fridays, I usually have a tuna sandwich, a tuna salad sandwich. And there is some celery in there, but they're smaller bites.
Okay. I can go with you on that fact, but here's the thing that I think is the counter to that. Describe your podcast office to me right now, your studio that you're in. Give me dimensions, give me what's in it.
I don't have, if you're asking for what my desk space is in order to eat a sandwich,
No.
I don't.
No, I'm asking about how big is the room you're in? Approximately.
Oh, let's see. It's about 10 feet wide by, I don't know, 15 feet deep.
And what's outside of your podcast studio?
You got the great room off of my right arm over there, and then behind me is the yard, the side yard.
Okay, so what you're saying, and your computer is generally running a little warm right now, right?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you're going to lock yourself in a confined space with a tuna sandwich with warm temperatures, and then you're going to open up your door and let all that smell go into your great room.
So we've never discussed this before, but I have this ability, which is a trained ability, and not because there was any contest or anything. It was simply for survival. I have a trained ability to eat really, really fast, like a whole sandwich in less than a minute.
All right. Okay. You might get away with that for the average podcaster. I don't know that you want that all hanging around for
But,
60 minutes
if I was
so.
mad at people in the house, what I would do is I would bring a microwave in here and I would heat it up, and then I would slowly eat it and then open the door.
Fair enough. Yeah. SP's Doomed Beard in the chat said PB&J. Again, I will say that the peanut butter is the recipe for disaster when you're talking. You know how they used to sadly think about how they used to make animals talk, right? It's because the mouths get all sticky, right?
He also said can't have tuna salad without toasted bread. I will counter with that. You can have warmed bread. It doesn't necessarily have to be toasted. And those with mouth or teeth issues know what I'm talking about.
Damien's onto something, though. He says, ooh, a French dip. It'll let you get it all soggy. That'd be okay.
Yeah, except for it's going to drip all over your microphone and your keyboard and your lap.
That's true. That's true. Fair enough. And plus the space concerns. So I don't know. What do you keep them coming in there? Randy Walker actually said thinly sliced roast beef, watercress, mayo, and Dijon and horseradish sauce on a nice hearty sandwich bread. Very specific.
I like spicy brown mustard personally. It's kind of like a Dijon and horseradish, but it's kind of not. So, I can do that.
All right. So I got a question. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. What can I do right now to motivate myself more with podcasting? Because I got to say, like right now, the whole, I'll be honest, the whole COVID situation, being at home, is mentally fatiguing, right? So I find my energy levels are actually low. All these people are jumping into podcasting because it's new for them. It's something new for them to try. And we talked about all the benefits that come with trying something new and the excitement and how that can really bring freshness to your world. I've been doing podcasting a long time, and right now I'm finding myself a little bit demotivated because of the fact that right now I want to go do mindless things after I've had a day of paying attention to all of the different press releases.
Okay, good question. And in all disclosure, I've actually been working. I've worked at work until last Thursday. Then I did Friday and Monday at home, and I was off today. I will be going back into the office. I'm considered essential, and I will go in periodically. There's 3 leaders in our immediate area, and we'll be trading off. So I'll be going in every 3rd day. So I've got a little bit of respite. And from what you've been telling me, I know that you've been at home. So you're a little bit more burned out than me. But I have put things in place to not get as burned out as you if I did have to work from home or it was just on admin. And I will go over those for you. The first of all is I have a home gym. It is not as good as the actual gym, but I do have a home gym. And I do use it every day. Get on the treadmill every day, and I have home weights that I use on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, just like I would normally. So I try to keep that that normal routine up. And along those lines, you might want to get up at the same time that you normally would for work. So try to get yourself into some sort of routine to try to make your life a little bit more palatable while you're cooped up at home. The other thing that I will say is and I know what you're saying is you've been dealing on press releases. I've actually been watching these press conferences, and they've been routine at the federal level here in the United States. They just changed it up in the last couple of days. But
sorry, to be clear, I have been watching the press conferences.
Okay. So what they've been doing here in the United States for the last 10 days or so is that the White House will get on there, the executive branch, the United States government, the president and his team, been getting up there around 11 o'clock to noon, and they've been doing a 1 to 2 hour press conference. And really, there's been some sweeping things going on in the country. So I've been paying attention to that. And then the state governor that I'm in, he will give a press conference with his chief of the Department of Health and the lieutenant governor. They will give a press conference about 2 every day. That has not changed. So that's still stayed the same the last couple of days, about 2 o'clock. They will give a press conference, and they have made changes every single day as the situation gets worse. So I've been paying attention to that. That is mentally draining because not only are you watching it every day, even on the weekends, but you are hearing the news as it's coming on. And it just gets worse. So if you can minimize that, I would definitely impart to you to try to minimize it. I'm kind of a news junkie, so I'm going to watch it anyway. And I just realized that this is an issue. I try to get up and do stuff while the conference is going on, do the dishes, vacuum, that sort of thing. But it is mentally draining. And the other thing I would say from a podcasting standpoint is if you need to take a night off, you take that night off. You take that week off. You don't go ahead and podcast. I mean, a good example is Gonna Geek show last week. Stephen was sick, and that's why we didn't really have it. But Chris and I didn't want to go because of the fatigue factor. Plus, we didn't want to fatigue Stephen even further as he had to edit that show that he had without him. And so we just decided not to have it last week. We went ahead and had it this week. I think everybody was on board. And for us, it is literally our time. We go and we talk to our friends online, and we have that. And if you can create that sort of atmosphere where you're actually talking to your friends and you can agree to totally avoid whatever crisis situation is ongoing, or you can agree to completely cover it. Just know that your audience may or may not want to hear either way. You got to know your audience and go with that. And then I would maintain a constant bedtime. I wouldn't try to stay up late at night or whatever. The other thing is there's been a lot of great streaming things that have opened up for people. There have been a lot of podcasting deals with companies that have opened up. If you want to, reinvigorate yourself into podcasting, I would look into those. As far as the streaming goes, there's several deals out there for streaming right now. Take advantage of them while you got them, because within a month or two, you're not going to have those advantage. And also take some time just to do stuff around the house. So I've decided that there's a couple things that I'm going to do. It's springtime, so of course I'm going to do yard work. But another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to organize what's going on in the house for cable management at my entertainment center. So one of the things I'm doing is I'm cleaning up my workout room, which has an entertainment center in there. And then I'm going to take care of the other entertainment centers. The other thing is I still got that engine I got to rebuild. This is a perfect time to do it as long as I can get the parts. So those sorts of projects where you have a dedicated thing to focus on and you can focus on it while you are either working from home or you are on sick leave or administrative leave or whatever, those sorts of things can keep you engaged in everything. And if you need to take a week off from podcasting, you can take a week off from podcasting. Steven has decided to take a week off from Better Podcasting once I gave him that advice. So for the rest of the podcast, apparently it's going to be the all SP show. So thank you very much. Oh no, Steven's back.
I was standing just off camera listening to the whole thing. I think they're really good tips, and truthfully, I am following a lot of them. And I don't know, I'll get out of my funk. I think it's normal for everybody to be feeling very uneasy right now and very all over the place. So I just wanted to mention it because it is how I've been feeling. I've talked offline with SP, and I'm always happy to share my inner feelings if it reassures anybody in case they're feeling the same way or feeling demotivated right now. And so I hope that helps somebody because it's the truth. It's how I feel.
I do have one more thing that I want to cover. If you do happen to find yourself getting sick, definitely focus on yourself. There is no need to podcast through this. Everybody will understand. Even your sponsors in a lot of cases will understand. You might have to deal with them later, but everybody will understand. You focus on yourself and your health. If you need to go see a doctor, go see a doctor. You need to take tests somewhere and make sure you have the flu or the coronavirus or whatever. You do that and you just take care of yourself. Don't podcast through illness. First of all, this particular virus, there's going to be a lot of coughing in it, and you're just going to have to edit out all that coughing, even if you do not stream live. If you record and then you publish the episode later. So those are the things that you should look out for. If you're getting sick, don't worry about it. Just call it off, and you don't even have to tell everybody you're sick. Just I'm just not feeling it because of what's going on right now. And you never have to disclose that you got sick, but just take a couple of weeks off.
All right. Well, we're going to get wrapping up here pretty soon, but I'll turn it to you for one more point there, SP. I know there's something else you wanted to mention. What do you want to mention?
There's a couple of things I want to mention, but one thing I will mention is I am not missing the barrage of constant podcasting conference talk.
Oh my God. Have you nailed it on the head there?
Everything's canceled right now, or they don't know if like Podcast Movement is going to happen later on in August and that sort of thing. But you're not hearing this weekend I was attending whatever event, wherever it is, right? It's almost every weekend now. And it's just this constant barrage of, okay, there is something to be said about that. We've talked about it before. If you're actually in the mode where you think it's going to help your show, or if you're monetizing whatever, okay, you should probably go to a podcast conference just to make those connections. And if you just want to meet people that you hear, you can meet them at podcast conferences, but don't think you're going to do something that's going to rocket you to number one on the podcast charts just by going to a podcast conference. It's not going to happen. And I hate the constant promotion of everything. Every weekend, there seems to be one event here, one event there. It's worldwide now. It grinds on me, and it gets to the point where I've tuned out the podcast space for weeks at a time because I just don't want to hear about it anymore. It's because it's nothing new that happens, or if there is some tidbit that's new, I'll catch it in some newsletter. It doesn't. I don't have to pay attention to the specific event. Since we podcast on the podcast space, I do eventually have to pay attention to the bigger things, but just I don't know, Steven. We've actually never gone to a dedicated podcast conference before, but there's no need to as hobby podcasters.
No, we're not there to sell anything. We're not there to kiss babies and shake hands, which you shouldn't do.
Give stickers away, give candy away.
We're not there to pat ourselves on the back and then pat each other on the back. So,
Well, that'd be good. I'd give you a hug, coronavirus or not. I'd give you a hug if we met in person.
I don't know that I'd give you a hug right now. I'll be honest.
That's fair.
I'm pretty infectious.
I would respect that personal space right now. I would. But this virus aside, if we
it was
saw each
any
other,
other time, absolutely.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't know. I probably would anyways, whatever. But you had one other thing you said you wanted to mention, right?
Yeah. So the other thing is I was looking into GPUs, and I know a lot of people don't do anything video related, but I was looking into GPUs mostly because my son decided to upgrade last weekend because there was some deal going on at Micro Center. So he went out and got himself an AMD RX 5700 graphic card for his computer. He upgraded from a 960 GTX, I believe it was. And this is going to be a major upgrade for him. But I was curious. I was like, okay, because I've been looking at the 2080 graphic cards for a while, and I just don't think I'm going to be able to afford them. They're like $1,000 or more. But one came across my email, and it was the RTX 2070, and it was an 8 gigabyte graphics card. And I was like, I wonder how that stacks up against what my son got. So I did the comparison charts. As it turns out, there is a difference, but it's not a lot of difference. And the RX 5700 is at least $100, if not more, like $150 less than the RTX 2070. So that kind of surprised me. So I think my son actually did good. He likes the PC games, so I think this will be a good buy from him. If you go up to the 4K ray tracing, you might find some benefit eventually in the next year or so with the 2070. And if I was going to buy something, I'd buy for the long haul. So I probably get Gigabyte 2070 or RTX 2070, but it's around the $500 mark, whereas the other you can get on sale for $350. So graphic cards change every year, and this is an upgrade for the 2070, and it seems to be in that sweet spot. Right now, I'm running a 1060, and I had wanted to upgrade to a 1080. I missed the boat on that, so 2070 is going to be an increase on that. And for $500, I think that's what I was willing to pay for a 1080 anyway. So I think this will be a good thing for it. If you like gaming or if you like video podcasting, I'd be curious as to what you are using or looking at upgrading to in your systems. I don't think I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger on that yet, but it looks like a card that I would be willing to upgrade to, at least in my case, the RTX 2070. But if you're looking at a cheaper option, that AMD RX 7500 looks like a good card.
But that's going to go ahead and wrap it up. Again, this was our live chat or live Q&A. If you want to chat with us in between our different episodes, head over to our Discord server at betterpodcasting.com/Discord. We would love to have you over there. Lots of fun chat happening, including podcast and not podcasting stuff. So please come on over there. And also check out the Gonna Geek Network. The Gonna Geek Network has some amazing geeky content. You should check that out at gonnageeknetwork.com. And I heard that SP, now that he's at home, he's going to relaunch 8 different podcasts. And he's not ended 8 different podcasts, but he's going to just pick some other random ones and relaunch them.
I you know what? I was thinking about relaunching the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Longbox Edition podcast, but I can't because they stopped shipping the comic books out now. So
Comixology.
There has been no official announcement on what they're going to do there.
That's true.
So we'll see what happens there. And then if you are listening to this and you want to explore joining a network, you can look at the criteria that we have set on the Gonna Geek Network by going to gonnageek.com/join and see if you want to look into joining the Gonna Geek Network.
So on that note, for another Better Podcasting live chat, I'm Stephen John Drew saying, seriously, come by the Discord. We would love to just have a little bit of fun chat with you, keep you entertained while you're at home.
And I'm SP saying, wash your hands, don't touch your face. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks for this.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out another episode of Better Podcasting. You can find the full back catalog of Better Podcasting at betterpodcasting.com. If you're into geeky podcasts, please check out the other podcasts on the Gonna Geek Network at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. This show was produced and edited by Stephen John Drew of Gonna Geek Productions. Voice work was done by L.W. Salinas. Thanks again for listening or watching, and we hope to see you again next week.
Hey, Xandrax, you still there? Are we still live?
Yeah, we're still up.
So, Xandrax, that's actually pretty cool. So, what Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Longbox Edition actually started out with was a segment that we were doing on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, we actually took that segment out because Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. was getting too long and too varied. And we threw that into another podcast. But then it just got to the point where I couldn't produce all the 6 different shows I was doing every week. So, it pod faded. But I always had the intention of going back to it. Now seems like a good time to do that, except for comic books are not shipping hard copy. So we'll see what the comic book makers are going to do, or if they're going to pull their comics or for a couple weeks, or if they're just going to go digital only. I don't know. We'll see. I cannot hear you. Can you hear me?
My fault. Thanks for coming on by. We hope you had yourself a wonderful evening. Let us know what you're doing while you're at home, if you're at home, and let's keep each other entertained. Also, I meant to mention, by the way, SP, today the official word came down that they officially canceled Big Brother Canada. They shut out the house. No winner.
Okay. They just shut it down.
Just shut it down.
Because you can't really go back once you're in that final stages.
Well, so the province that they're in right now is on lockdown, so I'm guessing they probably had issues getting the crew there. I think it'd probably be hard to argue that you're an essential service when you're working on Big Brother.
We were having an interesting offline conversation, I believe it was last week, on Big Brother and the fact that they're actually probably quarantined in the house. But then we were like, well, but the production crew comes in and out and catering. So we're like, I don't know what kind of transmission risk that they were running with that, just for the occupants of the house, not necessarily the production crew. But then if you're essential, you're essential. If you're not essential, you're not essential. The other thing is, because, my family members follow it, and it was big news. Bachelorette didn't start production, and they decided to recast all the guys because the Bachelorette is knocking on 40, like 35, 40. I forget how old she is. And all the guys they cast were in their early 20s. And so there was this big thing against that, I guess, in the Bachelor community. I forget what they were called, Bachelor Nation or whatever. And they were like, nope, that ain't going to work. So, they finally decided to recast it when they start filming again, whenever that's going to be.
Yeah. So probably some of the safest people in the world right now are out in the wild with the rest of us. Apparently they have 2 more episodes. I'm guessing just footage that they'll wrap up a couple things. But yeah, no winner, because they were only it was supposed to be like a really long season. That was the thing, is they announced it and they did it earlier. It was supposed to be like 3 or 4 weeks longer, and then they shut it down after I think like 4 or 5 weeks.
So I meant to throw this in the show. So the YouTube community is dealing with this too, and I watch a lot of sailing YouTube channels, and so now all the sailing channels are stuck somewhere all over the world. There's some that are in transit, but most of them are just stuck in the harbors that they're in, and they can't go anywhere, and they can't get off the boat. So the good thing is most of these boats provision for like 2 to 4 months. So they have enough food. Some cases they don't have enough water. So they don't have a water maker on board. So they have to deal with that. But it was interesting to me. There's been individual episode responses, but there's also been collaborative responses where, like, there was one of the channels in the Caribbean that just went out and put a call out to all the other channels that it knew were in the Caribbean and say, okay, what island are you at and what's going on? Give me a 1 to 2 minute video. And they basically did a clip show with all of the different channels out there. These are things that you can do right now with your podcast. But you can do some of those little collaborations, because by far and large, most people are at home. Like I said, and I know Damien said he was essential too. but I'm essential, so I'll be going into work, and it just depends on what's going on. The other thing I will say to everybody that is still listening to us is, I won't speak for you, Stephen, but I am always available. I mean, we might have to schedule it, but I'm always available to guest on your show. So if you need a guest for your show, reach out to me in private message or whatever, and then we will arrange it, and I will be on your show.
The Pod Lord SP.
Soon you will have that title too. It's just gonna be me.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming by. And seriously, if you want to chat anymore with us, come to the Discord or hit us up on Twitter. I don't know. I like these little subtle chats.
And I like everybody that swung by tonight. We had Xandrax, Randy, Liberty Dude, Bangs.
I have to say, I would consider doing a little more random chats right now for Mind, but I have to watch my kids, so it's not really ideal. And the fact that they're going to be semi-neglected for God knows how long because of the fact that they won't be in school and stuff, it's probably more important now than ever that I spend that time with them when I'm not working.
You need your away space from them too for your sanity and theirs. Yep. So you do need some, but you can't like go all like, kids, I don't care. Eat the pudding. I'm busy podcasting right now.
The problem is like right now they're not like, maybe for the rest of the school year, they won't be getting their daily social interaction with others. So that's why, like, you know, if I was to do anything, and maybe I'll think about this when they go to bed, and it sucks for the East Coasters, but maybe there'll be some other people around because there are people working at home. Maybe I'd do something random chat there, but it's like, for me, as I sit here and talk longer post show and neglect them further, I think it's important for me to not spend more time away from them since they're not getting that social interaction with other people in the day, right? Like, you know, I feel terrible for kids too. Like obviously I feel terrible for everybody who's been affected by this, both by the virus and as a result of the actions taken by the virus. And there's a lot of people affected, and there's going to be a lot more people affected, right? We don't know. It could be me at any point. Like, you don't know, right? But I really also feel for kids who don't really understand what's going on, and they've just lost basically a third of their school year. They can't see friends. They can't be social. I feel really bad for them. Yeah.
These kids, they don't, this is a snow day for them, right? This is, oh, wow, we get to stay home. We don't have to go to school until they start doing the online stuff, which some kids have started already. But, you know, you still have to make those gates. Standardized testing in the United States, at least, is canceled nationwide. So they don't have to worry about that. It's survival. It's just getting through the rest of the year. And hopefully in the fall, you can come back to a football season, fall sports, get that interaction there. You got school, new teachers. It'll be all new teachers for them too, because you know they're all going to graduate and go on to the next grade. And yeah, I feel for them. You know, my sister, she is mentally handicapped, and we talked about it before. And she has been in quarantine in her group home for the last 10 days, maybe, yeah, at least 10 days. I was going to say 14, but 10 days in Minnesota. And none of us, even if I was living next door, none of us can go over and see him because these are people that cannot take care of themselves and are at risk, and they have limited the amount of interaction that they have with staff even. And so I feel for people like that. And kids are no different. The one thing that I will say, though, is parents in my neighborhood are idiots because they're letting these kids play together, swap spits and snot.
Started. That's one of the things that irritates me the most is I've had to ban my kids to the backyard because when it first started, they were out playing in the cul-de-sac, and it seemed like people were respecting it because nobody was coming out. And then later we'd see other kids out there, and they'd be out there when ours wasn't, and sort of continue on. And then I look outside, and one of the kids are right up next to my kids, right in their space. Like, instantly I pulled them in for an early lunch, and I'm just like, sorry, backyard from now on. Like,
Wash your hands.
yeah. So, you know, and I'm not going to put them in a position where at their age, they're younger. At their age, I'm not going to put them in a position that they got to be awkward with neighbors and friends. So,
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of businesses that don't make it through this. And it's not just school; it's people at work and stuff. So we're going to wake up to a changed world. This is not something that will not change the world. The whole world is going to change for this, and some parts of the world already have. But the western part of the world is going to change. The southern hemisphere is going to start feeling the effects of this sooner rather than later, and it's not going to be good. So,
but you know what we will still have? Googly eyes. We'll still have googly eyes. Googly eyes. Ah!
Oh, don't send those to me. I don't want them in my office. I will throw them away.
Well, I guess we should go, but
Yeah,
there
we
you go. We'll end on googly eyes. Should we end on googly eyes?
Well, we'll end on that. And the next time we record one of these, SP's beard will be gone. Just a forewarning. It's almost gone now.
Goodbye,
Yeah.
SP beard. Okay, I have to admit, I trimmed my beard down. Actually, on the weekend, I did a video call with some friends, and they're like, "Wow, I'm really disappointed with your with your quarantine
Lack
beard."
of
And I'm like,
facial
I just shaved before this all happened, and then I'm like, honestly, I don't grow facial hair that fast. But then I was like, okay, I'll do the quarantine beard. And then yesterday, I was like, I don't know, I got cat hair near it, and I started to like sneeze, and I was
Don't
itchy.
touch your face. Don't touch your face,
I'm
man.
touching it.
Touch
I
your
know,
face.
right?
Don't
Here we
touch
go.
your face.
But anyways, I then got all itchy, and I was just like, screw that. I'm not doing the quarantine beard. I'll continue on with the usual facial hair, like the usual grooming. There we go.
Scruff.
All right, bye everybody.
Goodbye.
Googly eyes. Thank you, Suncast.